All right, we're live on Facebook. College Shooting Sports Recruiting here at the SCTP Nationals 2021. And we've got our college coaches here. We're going to go around the table and introduce each other. Mike, would you start with the microphone? You got to use that microphone. We're going to try to make the audio better than it was last year.
Mike Elam from Lindenwood University.
John Shealy, Emmanuel College.
Doug Elmore, Warner University.
Hub Powell, Montreat College.
Matthew Gay, Olivet College.
Reba Kingsley, Upper Iowa University.
Chad Wood, Wartburg College. Jordan Hintz, Hillsdale College.
Damian Giles, Schreiner University.
Dwayne Shepard, Fort Hays State University.
Jake McThenia, Midland University.
All right, well, guys and gals, thanks for coming here today to just have a little round table, talk about different things that people want to know. First thing, let's kind of shake around the table is, what are the top 3 things you look for in a recruit? The top 3 things you look for in a recruit. Anybody? Pass it around to anybody.
Well, I think the first thing I'm going to look for is a student that is there to get a quality education, there to dedicate and discipline themselves to shoot collegiate targets and graduate and go on and represent Fort Hays and our team.
Grades and test scores, number 1. A fit for the school, like major-wise, and shooting ability.
First off, I got to find out exactly what they're interested in to see if the school even fits, and then go grades. And then I do like to look to see how they interact with their own teams and on and off the field.
Along with that, too, academic fit, and then also like their kind of interaction with their teammates, kind of that teamwork ability, and then just want to be a part of something, looking to join and kind of better themselves, but enjoy shooting as well.
I think we all look for academic fit. Ours is a liberal arts college, so some of the majors aren't offered. But attitude, trainability, and generally we're looking for someone who's a good person, who's going to represent the school and the sport in the public.
I suppose I'll echo everybody else. Academic acumen, that's something that we certainly want. Make sure that we have a fit for their desired career field and that they overall are a fit for the institution. Not every one of us is going to be exactly the same as the others, so fit for the institution, I would say, is a pretty big deal.
Can't add anything, but one thing, a question I asked them, tell me about other activities, soccer, FFA. We got a lot of ag students. Tell me about that. So other involvement.
So academics and probably just a fit for the team I already have, existing team.
I think the number 1 priority is always going to be major, that we provide the major that the student's looking for. 2, that they fit into the culture of the campus, whether they're looking for a big campus, a small campus, a rural campus. And so, I recommend other students to these other colleges too when I know it's not the right fit for us. When they're looking.
So, Mike, stay with the microphone. So, everybody has said grades. As pretty much everybody has said the number 1 thing is the grades they look for. Now, we've got a recruit, let's say, that young person can just run the field. They can run the stations, never have a hiccup. But yet their grades are a little poor. Will you make an exception?
Well, I might make an exception, but the university won't. What you're looking for is success. You want someone to see someone as a freshman and see them graduate as a senior. And if someone is struggling, there's other avenues. Community college, to go to community college for a semester or a year, get some college academics under your belt, and then reapply to the school. But we wouldn't make any exceptions for students that don't meet the academic criteria.
Is that across the board, you think? Everybody?
I may not be alone in this philosophy, but there may be some, if there's a learning challenge, a documented learning challenge, that a student needs an accommodation, that's a possibility. If there's been an extreme family situation, those are about my only two personal exceptions that I would consider somebody if they had a slightly lower than the standard GPA.
You know, as a coach, I don't make that decision. There's an acceptance committee. I can't give you an example, though. You don't have. It's not just a line, a black and white line. We want to set a student up for success. I recently had a commit athlete who demonstrated the first part of high school was a serious challenge, but the second half of high school they did exceptionally well. Being on the borderline with that GPA, that acceptance committee takes a look at those grades and the progression of their academic success, and that was the deciding factor where they allowed that student, admittance to the school because they could see that their academics were getting better, and through an interview process that they determined that they believe that athlete can be successful at the school.
I would say the exception, again, it comes from like admissions, and if they meet the admissions requirements, so like Upper Iowa's minimum is like a 2.0, but if not, again, it would have to go through like the acceptance committee and stuff like that.
For me, it would be really tough. We don't do any athletic scholarships whatsoever, so it's all based on academics, on what type of a scholarship package that young athlete would be able to receive. So if it's low, I would have to really investigate on why and what year they were. If they're a junior, yeah, they could have a chance to bring that grades back up, but if they're seniors, it'd be rough.
We know your answer, Jordan. No, go ahead.
I'm going to go anyway. Hillsdale has very stringent academic requirements, so it doesn't mean that it necessarily takes them off my list, but it certainly hurts their chances to be admitted. So
the bar for Shriners is a little bit higher to get in. It's not quite as bad as Hillsdale. But
Don't say bad, just say to the same level.
Yeah. Fair enough. But I couldn't have that on my conscience if I thought that someone was not going to be successful to put themselves through that financially and otherwise. So they need to be like it's a student athlete, students first. So they got to be able to, graduate at the end of this. So if they fail out before they can go to nationals anyway, it hasn't done anybody any good. So
I don't have a lot of choice. I'm a university professor at our school. Grades, academics play into it. There are other methods, set out a year, work on grades, tutoring, things like that. But before they're on our team, they do make grades.
Yeah, kind of going with everyone else here, grades, very important here. But for us, getting a kid into Midland, you have to have a 2.0 GPA. We kind of look at that and we say, okay, they might be on the lower end of that, they're hugging that line, but we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that they succeed academically. So I may put them in study hall hours, something we've never really done before, just so that way they are able to stay, so that way if they are that athlete that can, run the table, they can still be a part of our team and still have academic success while getting that help, so that way they can stay afloat. So that's how I see it.
Scott? If a student athlete, if they're coming into your school and they can really run the field, they can just light it up on the range, but yet they lack in the grades, will you still take them?
No. I'm not looking for necessarily kids that, can run the field. That's my job as a coach to teach them how to do that. But I'm looking for kids that are going to be successful And so I'm always going to look at the student portion first, and the talent portion can be developed because we've all of us have seen great shooters. Some of these guys at this table have been national champions, and they all have talent, but they wouldn't have been able to compete, like Damian said, at the national championships if they didn't have their grades in place. So you got to tell your students before they get into high school, when they're coming out of junior high, hey, 9th grade, do the work. Because then they're going to be successful and they're going to be the right fit for my team and probably everybody else's team. I'm not looking for, a prima donna and sell me on your talent. Sell me on your schoolwork and your work ethic, and then I know you're going to be an accomplished shooter.
So we've done 2 questions, and the answer to those things has been grades. So let's talk about something else that's kind of a hot button in the world right now with young people, and that's their social media. We tell a lot of the recruits that are on our system, if it's at all questionable, don't like it, don't retweet, face whatever, all those things, don't do it. Stay away from it. Stay off of it, and it'll be a lot easier on you. Does some of their social media, can that play into them being on your team?
I'm going to say yes, simply because the way I look at it is treat it like it's a job interview, like a resume almost, or a job interview, because your coach can look anywhere on social media and see what you've liked, retweeted, followed, whatever. And if it's, like you said, Robbie, questionable or just something that doesn't go with your program, like what you stand for, or even academically, if it's, bashing your school or anything like that, to me, that's like they're not buying into it. They're not buying into the school, the program, what it stands for, stuff like that. So for me, that definitely raises a red flag.
Well, that's the reason why I was late, because you posted this on social media, and I don't check mine every 10 seconds. So I was waiting at the tent working with kids, and then it's like, nobody's here. So, yeah, it plays into it for coaches, too. So that's why I was late. But I'll give you an example. I had one young lady that was shooting. Obviously, she was shooting really well. She was shooting and wanted to make Team USA and all that. And she went to an event, and somebody posted something really nasty about her at an event, and she happened to see it right before she walked out to shoot. Well, you can imagine what's going through her head. They're saying mean things and all that kind of stuff. If anybody's been watching social media, that happened while there was a young lady over there at Hillsdale shooting at the JOs on her way up from Texas, somebody posting something really nasty. And, you got to realize there are people out there that will do that to take you out as a competitor. And that social media opens up a real easy window to get at you, because there's nobody monitoring it. And once you put it out there, you can't take it back. So be careful what you put out there, and be careful what you allow in, especially when you're getting ready to go to game day or go to a national championships or anything like that. Because if somebody can get in your head by posting something nasty on social media, don't be surprised if they try it. So be careful with it. There is a purpose for it. I obviously looked at it and got here. But, be careful with it.
Well, that's an interesting question. As I said earlier, I'm a college professor, but I still use a flip phone. So social media is not my big deal. But I can tell you this. We talk about social media in our meetings and team meetings and things like that. And one of the things I tell the kids is you're going to be known the rest of your life by the attitude, the behavior you display now. So character and integrity go a long way.
To not sit here and repeat everything, short answer would be depends. We might have to talk about it, but ultimately, yes. So, we will see it. Some of us are old enough to probably view these guys as older siblings. Otherwise, so we might see it ourselves, or someone will show it to us. So,
I do like to see what prospective student athletes are up to on Facebook, for instance. So seeing making sure that they're careful with what they're posting is important, not just for the kids, but also for their parents.
I follow just a little bit, basically just to see a lot of what kind of a character they are. Other than that, I really don't pay a whole lot of attention to the social media myself. That's just the way I go.
I would say just think before you post, and like if you don't want your parents or somebody else to see it, or if you are, say, going against another competitor or something like that, like that's definitely something to think about, because your personality, you're kind of branding, representing yourself too. So think before you post.
I may be a bit of in the minority on this one. I believe as strongly in the First Amendment as I do the Second Amendment. I believe no matter how ignorant the thing the individual has to say, they have the right to say it, provided it's not, obviously bashing the school, bashing the sport, being just blatantly disrespectful, or, supporting some sort of criminality. That type of thing I wouldn't tolerate. And of course, I take a look at it, but I'm not afraid of someone with a different perspective. In fact, I enjoy engaging people like that. I don't weigh a lot into it, particularly knowing that the human brain is not fully developed till age 26, and for some of us it never happens. So they're kids, but yes, there are certain red lines for me, but generally speaking, I believe people have the right to say things no matter how silly they are.
One thing social media can do is help those of us who are coaches to see whether or not there's a consistency with what we think we see versus who they say they are. So if there is a disconnect between their proclamation of character versus a revelation of character, I would think that for any of us that might be something to consider.
I've only used it as a way to connect with the family. So I'll go out there and usually they'll invite me and I'll accept. And it's just a way for me to connect with the family. I hadn't had any negative things, but it will happen. It will happen.
So can it affect the decision? Is that the question is, can it affect the decision? So yes, if you see something that's way out of line, it could affect whether you want them on your team or not, for sure. But we all make mistakes. So you can't just take that one instance. You kind of have to look and then proceed with caution, maybe.
I'm just glad every time I talk, the flurry's going on. But there's two sides of social media. It can be very positive, too. We see a lot of that every day. A lot of shooters showing what they're doing. That helps a lot if you are following a student athlete. I'm at the 4-H national championship. I'm at the SCTP. I shot a good score. Those type of things are useful. But again, I don't see too much of it anymore. It's been something that's been talked about and probably talked to death. That hopefully the word is out that I think if you post something, you should want your grandmother to read it.
That's good. Let me ask you about the recruit that they have some issues when it comes to, and I'm asking these questions based on recruits that we've had and questions they've had and things that we've seen along the way. Let's say we've got a great shooter, but yet they want to blame a couple misses or their misses on the puller. They want to throw shells. They want to get upset when they miss. They kind of have a little bit of a pity party or a little temper tantrum when they miss, or just that little bit of, I call it, just have a little character lapse. And we all miss. We all have little things, but how do you look at those things? How do you look at their actions, not only in the classroom, but on the field?
Well, I think when you're talking about that, when we all talked about the type of recruit you're looking for someone with good character. And if you're out there, you should almost have, I coach a long time. I coach other sports as well. We put a coach's camera on ourselves and saw how we acted on the sidelines sometimes too. And sometimes you don't know how silly you look throwing that shell. And so, maybe if you can come from the right angle talking to a young student athlete, like, this is how you're perceived. This is what's being seen when you do something that's out of the ordinary or out of the norm, that maybe they don't really realize that. They are dealing with something in a way. You've seen some grab shells really tight when they have a miss, and that's the way maybe keep from throwing it into the atmosphere. But I think the other thing is maybe having that discussion with somebody, like, and if somebody's not going to get over that, that's not the type of person probably the majority of us want on our teams.
I'd have to say attitude and composure are an important part to be successful in this sport.
I take it. Private criticism, public praise. If it's not too bad, I always talk about it after the fact, and then talk about, okay, 2 years from now, you're going to be applying for a job. If they give me a call, I want to be positive. So I try to take it a long-term approach, but I believe in privately talking to them within a short period of time and explain to it from a global standpoint, from a job market standpoint, how it hurts them.
Well, any of us who've ever shot understand that we can sometimes be our own worst enemy. We don't need a shooter to beat themselves. And from the mental management side, that's something I suppose all of us as a coach would want to encourage. But if a student athlete cannot overcome that, I suppose that may be a different conversation. It simply has to be managed. Cannot let self be the one who beats self.
My initial response to the answer was trainability, attitude. With trainability and attitude, you can help them learn how to manage that, manage for disappointment, and build on that. The mental part of this game is so significant that we're all still learning about how to properly manage and teach people to manage their mental game. So I can work with that, and again, I don't expect an athlete to come to me having fully mastered that mental game. I'm still working on it in my own game. So as long as they're trainable, as long as they can understand the concepts and the different tools that I can teach them how to utilize to manage that disappointment, the better off they'll be, and I can work with them.
I would like to say what all they said too. Something some of my coaches taught me, like when I was younger, that I passed on to mine was like, when coach sees you when you're shooting, like, we don't want to know if you hit it or missed it or not. Just kind of, a lot of times it can be habit from when they are younger growing up, and they might not realize how silly they look actually doing it. So just having that open, honest conversation, and like it could happen multiple times, until they break that habit, but it's just having that trainability and talking with them.
Yeah, I'll have to go along. You have to talk with them a little bit, try to work them through it. If it's a reoccurring deal over and over again, it goes back into the trainability part of it. And if you can't get through to their head, then with this being a mental game as heavy as it is, it's somebody I would possibly walk away from. Yes.
These guys have covered it pretty well. We'd work on it.
Yeah, like it's all part of the mental game. You got to be able to let those shots go, or it's going to cost you more. So, I mean, we're human. Everyone's going to slip up once in a while, but if it's a recurring thing, then yeah, that would be an issue. But
yeah, I don't really have anything to add. It's sometimes a problem. You see it, it happens. One of the things that I do, we talk to our kids up front what our expectations are as a team member and also as being part of a squad. And so I've been blessed over the years with a lot of good shooters who are leaders. And I found that generally given the chance, they'll fall into place, they'll follow suit, they want to fit in, they want to do the same type of things. So.
Kind of the same thing, just got to work on it, address it. If it becomes a persistent issue, got to sit down, have that conversation, talk to that individual to the point, so that way maybe they can adjust to how they handle a situation like that. So I think we, like Jordan said, we all covered it pretty well, so that's my take on it.
My take on it is probably no different than everybody else. The only difference, or the only other thing I would add is, and they all know it too, and we just take it for granted, it starts with your coaching staff. It starts at the top down, and what you allow and what you don't allow, and what you prepare your kids for, and say this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. And then, when it happens and you've covered it, it's time to take action. And I mean, we've all probably, I know I have, my very first time on the job with the very first team, pulled a kid off before he, I would have pulled him off before he finished his next 25, but I didn't want to embarrass him in front of everybody. And it was actually at Fort Hays, and I mean, he chucked a shell so hard, it bounced and went clear past the 27-yard line into the crowd. And, and I pulled him aside and said, we've already talked about this. You're done for the weekend. You're done. And boy, I had parents and other coaches and teammates all trying to talk me into letting him shoot because that was the first day. But I also had a discussion with him before it happened because he is a high drive, high energy type of individual. And I said, I don't want to crush that beast, that competitive beast, but you got to learn to manage it. And if it comes out, this is how we're going to manage it. So he knew what the stakes were. So when people came up and asked him, are you really upset with your coach? He's like, no. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. And now he's one of my high-end competitors as a senior, and he hasn't thrown a shell in 2 years, and his scores have gone up. But you got to have that groundwork done before you do that at a competition, because you're not looking to embarrass the kid. I'm looking to teach him a life skill that will make him a better employer, employee, husband, father, whatever in life.
All right. We had a question from somebody here that they asked about scholarships. I think everybody here has scholarships, either academic or athletic. It's here at the table. They asked about stackable scholarships. Why doesn't everybody do stackable scholarships? Maybe just explain how your school operates your scholarship program.
So at Midland, we're one of the schools that doesn't stack scholarships. We're either going to give your son or daughter academic or athletic, one lump sum of one or the other. So basically, when they go to apply and they put in their transcript, they look at the GPA, the test score, all that stuff for the academic side, and then they have a scale as to what are they going to qualify for academic wise for the money. If it's to a point where I can offer more athletic money, then I will. But if they qualify for a higher academic award, more than say that I'd be willing to give them athletically, I'm going to tell them to take the academic money and run with it all day. Just because it comes from the school's, what I call the magical pot of money versus what I get each year. So, and then every school, as we're going to hear, is different in that aspect. But in Midland's case, we have 2 different scholarships. Either way, they still get a good chunk of change to help pay for their education.
Yeah, and we stack it at Concordia. You get your academic based on the hard work that the kids have put in during their high school career, and then on top of that, we have an athletic scholarship that can be on top of that as well. So we go at it both ways.
We have plenty of academic scholarships, and a lot of the kids on the team do have academic scholarships. As a shooting team and organization, we do not now or never have offered scholarships.
Shiner looks at all the students holistically, and it's merit-based. It is stackable. There's a little bit you can get for being on our roster, but they look at it, and it's through the application process. So were they involved with extra activities, like have it be 4-H or SCTP or whichever? Did they have leadership positions in those organizations? Did they have a job? And it's not just based on GPA and test scores anymore. So it's worked out for the positive. And then that, I think probably with most places, it can stack with any outside scholarships that they might have earned. So.
Hillsdale does stack academic and athletic scholarships. What really makes us different is being an entirely privately funded institution. We don't accept any money from the government, federal or state. So financial aid-wise, we don't accept FAFSA. Hillsdale has its own private student loan programs, and all their own private, like GI Bill replacements, all down the line.
Warburg is strictly an academic school. We don't even have athletic scholarships whatsoever, so there really is no stacking of anything on that. And the NCAA is what that kind of rules our regulations on that.
At Upper Iowa University, all students receive an academic scholarship, and then the shotgun sports team is part of the athletic department. And with that, I'm able to offer athletic scholarships, and they can be combined with the academic scholarship offers. The only time they can't is if students receive grants through the university, and those are based off of academics and financial aid stuff.
Olivet College has a plethora of academic offerings in terms of scholarships. Our program is within the athletic department, so we do offer an athletic scholarship that is stackable. The only caveat to that is there can be a situation occasionally where that athletic scholarship actually decreases their eligibility for more in terms of an academic scholarship, at which point our financial aid office and admissions office will get them the best, put them in the best position in terms of cost for their education.
So we do stack athletic and academic, as well as honors college funding. We've got a separate endowed pool of funding for us if a kid can get into the program. That is something that does stack on top of the athletic academic contributions that the institution makes, and it can be significant.
We do not stack, but let me make some comments here. We give them a worksheet early on, so they'll know. So if you're talking to Hub School or John School, and those you're down to 2, then look at both of them. But we don't, but there's exceptions. Particularly on the academic side, or I've got a budget and I always help. If you hold 500 here and 700 here, as quickly you can use it. So as a rule, no, but there is exceptions.
So I handle the Clay Target scholarship, and then I let the school handle the academic part. If they would like to give them an academic scholarship, then I'm all for them getting what they deserve.
On top of yours. On top. So we have scholarships based on academics, and then we have stackable scholarships above that, based on scholastics, athletics, co-curricular, leadership-based initiatives, and actually family needs sometimes. So we take a look holistically. I think someone else used the word holistically. Every single person is different. And so above and beyond what you get for the academic scholarship, we're looking at that other criteria that kind of is a holistic approach to the students' need and, of course, athletically where they're at as well.
We talk about scholarships, and sometimes when we say sorry.
Let me add more things. We all become close to these parents. Early on, that question comes up. Tell me about it. So we're all probably proactive and say, look, when you get down to the schools you like, ask them to give you a worksheet. And then exactly what, because it's expensive. So I encourage them, look at me as a resource, get down to your colleges, and then we're going to give you a worksheet because this is a big decision. And you look at me as a resource, and I think most of these coaches are very fair. We want to be a resource to that family during this process.
We mentioned scholarships to parents and to student athletes. We don't have to go around the table with this. You guys can just kind of shout out what you think on this. But typically when we mention scholarship, or a parent mentions or a student athlete mentions scholarship to us, immediately the brain goes to full ride. Are they there?
Yes.
All right. Coach Mike says yes, he's got the availability to make it
Full
happen.
tuition scholarships are available. Not full tuition room and board, but full tuition scholarships I could provide to top-level athletes.
So they would still have room and board to pay? Yeah.
I said, that's why
Tuition.
I said that.
Tuition.
Full tuition scholarship.
So a zero net cost does not exist. Okay? Question is, out of the schools here, is everybody an accredited college? Yes. She just went around the table and made sure you all nodded. Because if you didn't nod, she wasn't allowing anyone to talk to you tomorrow. Anybody else have a question that's out here? What do you got? That's probably the best thing ever. Her question was, does it count against a kid if they don't have social media? I said that's probably the best thing. Anybody have anything to it? Doesn't count against them? They do on our profile. Anybody else got a question? All right. Well, tomorrow is college day, so you guys will all be inside. It's moved to
the Hitters building next to the campground office. Still the same time, 9 to 4. It's just because the weather might be a little rainy tomorrow, so we're going to move it inside, more space. Hitters building next to the campground office.
All right. So any last thoughts, statements, anything from you guys as a coach?
Thanks for hosting this. The only other thing that I would add, I don't know the status of any of the other schools. Cost of participation. I don't know. I've been involved with other programs. Some are club programs. Some are fully funded. That's one thing I would encourage the athletes to ask a prospective school what it would cost them to participate. I believe some are cost sharing, some are completely covered, but that's a significant consideration for a kid in school. Potential burden on the parents, or additional burden rather. So that's just something to pay attention to.
Anybody else? Scott?
I'm going to interrupt. I'll go in front of Scott here, but don't wait to take the ACT or SAT. Sign up, take it as early and as often as possible. Yeah, that's good advice for going to any school, but to get into Hillsdale, it's almost a requirement.
Yeah, and along with that plug for the ACT, it surprises me how much money parents will spend on this sport to help their kid get better, but they won't spend $300 to $400 to do a pre-ACT or SAT prep test. And I'm telling you, that can change your academic award, as all of us coaches know, by $1,000 times 4 years, or 6 if they're going for an MBA. And when you can jump that scholarship academically $4,000 a year, do the math. A little bit of investment in the right athlete can change your bottom dollar of payback. So yeah, it's important to understand that. One thing is, because my kid went through it, and we've helped others through it. When parents are going and kids are going, make sure that you talk to the admissions department. And a lot of kids coming out now are coming out with college AP courses and college credits. There are restrictions that every school will accept this many, will not accept this many. Some schools will take all 49 credit hours. Some schools will take 12, some will take 20. So you need to ask those questions up front, because that changes a whole year of your mentality of how much longer you're going to be at that college if they don't accept all those AP courses coming out of high school. So the more that you can find out up front before you make your decision, you got to know the questions to ask. So my challenge is, I'm going to do my homework as the coach, but I expect you to do your homework and pick the right school. And if I'm not the right school, by all means, go to the right school.
Yeah, those test scores, that could be your full ride. That could be your full ride, test scores. Who cares what the label is? Take it. You got anything, Jake? All right. Coaches, thank you. Again, tomorrow's College Day. All the high school kids that are here at SCTP Nationals 2021, they can go to the Hitters Building between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. They can see you guys and ladies. They can see all of you, talk to you about their schools and your programs and this and that. So we want to thank SCTP for allowing us to do this again this year. If you're here, give a round of applause to the college coaches for coming and doing this. And MidwayUSA Foundation, I appreciate everything they do. I think all of the schools here pretty much work with MidwayUSA Foundation, and none of us would be doing any of it if it wasn't for MidwayUSA Foundation. So big thank you to them, and I think that's it. So tomorrow, College Day. Thanks a lot.